a comment from Dan Orlovsky that was talking about the benefits of being Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son. And people kind of arguing that there's all these ramifications to being Deion's son, and he should be immune from those negative ramifications while receiving all the positive aspects of being Deion's son. Let's play SOT number 11. It's the Dan Orlovsky comment about Daddy Deion.
So I got to push back onto because you just waxed for 60 seconds about how the pedigree and where he comes from and being Deion's son and all the positives come from that or that have been kind of shined on him. But then in the same breath say, I don't want him to be penalized for being Deion's son. We can't have it both ways. If we're going to laud praise on him for being Deion's son and the understanding and the pedigree that Stephen A. brought up and the characteristics and how he's been molded because of his father, okay. And those are all things that have been benefits to him and that will probably be in the NFL, we can't sit there and say, well, it's held against him as well. Because while his dad was one of the greatest ever, Shedeur's not that right now physically. He's not this remarkable, rare, unbelievable unicorn athlete.
That's Dan Orlovsky keeping it real. But he pivoted into a conversation about he didn't get his father's athletic gifts. I want to pivot into a conversation of he didn't get pushed out of the cocoon at the proper age, and perhaps that's working against Shedeur Sanders. There is a process of maturation, there's a process of development where a man, a boy, becomes a man and he gets pushed out of the cocoon. And so most people, that happens at age 18. You graduate from high school. You go off to play college football or basketball or baseball or soccer someplace else outside of your parents' control. You join the military. You go off and do the rite of passage from age 18 to 22, and then you come back home a man. Deion, out of his own desires, never gets his son out of the cocoon. He actually uses his son to some degree, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying he's using his son. Doesn't have to be negative, but Deion uses his son to get a job at Jackson State University, and then uses his son and Travis Hunter to get a job at Colorado. And Deion said, I'm Deion Sanders. I didn't have to use them. I'm one of the greatest football players of all time. If there's no Shedeur, he doesn't get these opportunities. If there's no Travis Hunter, he damn sure doesn't get the Colorado opportunity. And so he's needed these two boys. And look, I'm not saying it's all negative, but I'm saying there's a consequence for his son, Shedeur. People are looking at and evaluating Shedeur under like, hey, how's he going to handle not having his dad around? Not having his dad's shoulder to cry on? These are real issues that have to be talked about because, trust me, as an executive and as a head coach, you think about these things. For most of my adult life, I've struggled with my health, feeling sore and low energy. But Relief Factor, it's changed all that. I feel better, I move better, I think better. And here's the thing, it's only $20. You've got nothing to lose. In fact, about 70% of those who order Relief Factor go on to order more. Begin your journey, start your transformation, reclaim your life. Relief Factor. I'm going to draft a quarterback, significant player who's never been coached by anybody but his father. And he's now 22, and he's worth millions of dollars. And his dad's personality is the personality of a defensive back or a wide receiver, not the personality of a quarterback. And his dad, being one of the greatest players and now being a somewhat successful college coach, will have real strong opinions, credible opinions on how we're developing and using his son. And trust me, with all of these players, particularly at the quarterback position, but regardless of anything, they got an uncle, they got a father, they got a mama that has strong opinions about what's going on with the football team. And they interject themselves into those conversations. This happens with all of them, but not all of them have the credibility of being Deion Sanders, one of the 10 greatest football players of all time. Someone with access to a platform to go at you or expose you. I can't believe I forgot this. But one of the biggest red flags that Deion has sent out that any coach, executive, even ownership should be afraid of is the video that surfaced when they had a pro day at Colorado and Deion publicly ripped the scout and the directions the scout was giving at pro day. That's the nightmare scenario that every coach, organization is afraid of. Hey, we can't do what we want to do because Deion is second guessing us from afar, and Deion called out a scout at the pro day and embarrassed him. If this is what we're going to be dealing with, just a pro day and how we run drills, and Deion coming in, I'm smarter than all of you. Don't you know I'm Deion Sanders? I'm the greatest coach. I'm the heir to Nick Saban, and let me tell you how you should be doing things, running this pro day. Deion has no humility. And he's also, and this works in combination, incredibly insecure. Because a secure person doesn't beat his chest after winning a game at TCU. A secure person doesn't embarrass a scout at a pro day. A secure person doesn't wear gold chains and call himself by a nickname at nearly 60 years old. It just doesn't happen. And I know that there's some of you watching and some of you that believe like, oh, what do you mean? This big gold chain that I'm wearing isn't a sign of security? It's not a statement of confidence? No, it's actually the opposite. And people won't tell you that because they don't want to be called racist or an Uncle Tom or a sellout. But Shedeur Sanders showing up last night on draft night. I mean, huge diamond encrusted chain wrapped around his neck. It's like, holy cow, this boy is insecure. He's just like his daddy. He's insecure. And yes, Deion calls himself Coach Prime and he pretends to be this hyper-confident person, but he's not. And he's given his son the same radical materialism, the same insecurity that afflicts Deion. And I know people last night when I talked about the gold chain, here's Jalen Hurts and his big gold chain. And I like Jalen Hurts. And I think that he's certainly got more leadership credibility based on the way he handled things at Alabama and then transferred to Oklahoma and had success. But any of these guys that you see with these big diamond chains and all this jewelry on, that's insecurity. They're screaming, I have no confidence, and I must weigh myself. I must walk around with $250,000, $300,000, $500,000 worth of jewelry on myself to feel valuable, to feel worthy. I must throw my wealth in other people's face to validate myself. No one will tell you that. No one will go on ESPN or Fox Sports or any NFL network and say like, hey guys, you're telling on yourself. You're making a fool of yourself. You're screaming you're insecure. No one will do that. It's too high risk. But you've made jewelry an idol. You've made yourself an idol. You're dressing yourself. I want to be a statue. I want everybody to look at me. And that's all these guys and their fancy clothes and their jewelry. When you enter into a biblical worldview, when you really humble yourself and look and you start evaluating, what am I doing to distract from God and focus attention on myself? And the phoniness of Deion and the lack of maturity as it relates to his walk, it annoys me and I call it out. And he's afflicted his son with this deal. But anybody proclaiming Christ while dressing themselves up as an idol, while trying to draw attention to themselves everywhere they go. So when they show up, it's like, hey, let me talk about that watch you have on. Let me talk about that chain you have on. Let me talk about that wild hairstyle you have. Let me talk about that suit you have on. While proclaiming a faith. And so men that dress themselves up this way, it's very narcissistic. I'm telling you what I know from my own experience. I used to do these things. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a moment of Fearless.